In October 2020, we laughed as creationist Kent Hovind was suing the federal government for over $500 million.
$500 million.
In October 2021, Kent Hovind had been accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars, convicted of body slamming his third wife to the ground, and was awaiting either jail time or an appeal.
Motion for a new trial.
Now, in what's becoming an annual update, it's October 2022, and Kent Hovind is looking back on a year with yet another new wife.
Okay, have a seat here.
A YouTube ban.
Seems like YouTube just can't handle the criticism.
The death of his health expert.
You're probably missing some vitamin or mineral.
A violation of a restraining order.
I'm not supposed to be within 500 feet. Okay.
A stroke.
I kind of, what?
Are you okay?
Another trial.
That judge does not even like my husband.
And just when we thought it couldn't go any lower, the Dinosaur Adventure Land compound's darkest accusations to date. Missing children.
You're more concerned about a kid you haven't seen.
And systematic abuse.
And I said I was no threat to her or anyone else.
I'm not going to lie. This is going to be a rough one, folks. If you're sensitive to topics of domestic, sexual, or child abuses, you might want to give this one a pass. Welcome to Paulogia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians.
Paulogia, you claim you used to be a Christian and left. Okay, I don't know if you were or not.
And usually that means claims about science, history, philosophy, society, or theology. But every once in a while, we point our Creation for Cash series eye at Kent Hovind's Dinosaur Adventure Land compound in Lenox, Alabama. Unfortunately, the damage done by Creation Ministries isn't limited to pseudoscience and indoctrination.
I'm really sorry if people out there who are Christians feel like we're just doing this to hurt Kent. We're not. I'm doing this because I feel obligated to do it. There are people out there that love and respect him, that give him their money, their hard-earned money and tithe. But there are some real serious character flaws here, folks. And we can't put our head in the sand and ignore them. There's a problem out there on that campus. I personally would never want my family to visit there.
In my recent conversation with Kent's son, Eric, he complimented me on this expose side of my efforts.
I'll admit this right up front, Paul. There is an appreciation that I have for a section of what atheists do to point out hypocrisy in the church. And so,
just as I said in the first 2 minutes of last year's video, nothing we talk about today has any impact at all on the truth or non-truth of his ideas about creation, evolution, and the age of the earth. There's a library of existing and future videos to refute those. This disclaimer was clearly lost on Kent, because in his response,
if I was a thief and a murderer and a wife beater and the things they accuse me of, it still wouldn't affect the potential argument that there's a God, there's a judgment day one day.
On that we agree, Kent, which is why I mention it in the first 2 minutes.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but
this video is not about creation or God. This is a spotlight. Most of my sources are Christians.
Yeah, I feel now that Brett has broken this, and then TTOR has broken this. More Christians will start to weigh in and say, this is terrible.
I know there are many Christians and young earth creationists in my audience. And if any of you are still supporting Kent Hovind financially, I hope that after watching, you'll consider putting that kingdom investment elsewhere. So, just like in previous years, I'm going to enlist more day-to-day in the trenches Kent Hovind watchdogs to help.
Paulogia and AJ, the Atheist Jr., get desperate. They posted last night on me and on Matt and on Steve. Did you hear that, Steve? Did you see that? Oh, yeah, they got you too.
If you're not familiar with Kent Hovind and his nefarious past, I'd recommend you check out my videos Hovind Sues for $500 Million, a movie, and a pocket knife, and Kent Hovind's Dinosaur Scandal Land 2021 for all the context, and we'll skip some of the introductions this year, other than the brief outline that Kent began spending decades teaching young earth creationism around the country, took an involuntary time out for 9 years, returned to society in 2015, and moved to a donated plot of land in Lenox, Alabama, which he calls Dinosaur Adventure Land, or DAL. He's had 4 wives, children, an advisory board including Ernie Land, and hundreds of current and former workers and associates, including Mark Stoney, Steve Lynn, Bill Sardi, Paul Hansen, and Kent's apprentice, Matt Powell. Kent's year is a spectrum from the silly to the serious. We're going through it all in chronological order, so I hope you can stick with us to the end. Somehow it gets worse as we go. And while we're disclaimering, remember that everything you're about to hear in this video are allegations until otherwise proven in a court of law.
And I'm just pointing out, this is what some of the people here said.
So when we last left Kent and Company in our previous video, we were waiting to see what would happen next with his domestic abuse trial. So Kent Hovind initially received a guilty verdict in that trial, and we thought he might actually see the inside of a jail cell again, even for a short time. But afterwards, he appealed the verdict. And because of worldwide events and the small population size of the county Kent lives in, progress has been very slow on this case. So we still haven't seen any major updates.
It's been dragging on for years now, a couple of years. November 22nd is the next time there's a court appearance. I don't even have to go to that one. Hope it drags on for 50 years or she just drops it. Okay.
That doesn't mean nothing has happened in Lenox, Alabama, though.
Just before the release of last year's video, Kent revealed his latest wife, in quotation marks.
All the skeptics are going to get mad. Hovind got married again. Yep.
Wife number 4, we don't really know very much about yet.
Well, we know a little more now, so allow us to rewind slightly to catch up on Princess Sandra Hovind.
Kent claims that Sandra called him and said that she worked as a secretary down in Haines City, Florida, which is Central Florida.
We now have a lady who is a secretary in Central Florida working at a big church down there is willing to take calls to do just my scheduling secretary.
And according to Kent, he wanted to get permission from Sandra's ex-husband. He drove to Sandra's house, and I guess by the grace of God, the ex-husband just happened to be talking to Sandra on the porch when he pulled up in the driveway.
He's standing at the door. And he said, "Oh, you're Kent Hovind." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Aaron, Sandra's ex-husband." I said, "Well, I've been wanting to meet you."
And he totally blessed their union and said, "Oh, I love your DVDs, and I think it's a great idea."
Hi, my name is Sandra
Oh, I
Hovind,
can't hear
and
you.
I just wanted to give you an insight of me and my husband and the way we live.
So Sandra has 3 former husbands and 7 children by 2 of them. So both her and Kent are on their 4th marriage. On the 12th of September, 2021, Sandra and her children, they traveled to Lenox, Alabama.
All right, tell them who you are, where you're from.
Sandra Sawyer from Winter Haven, Florida, and I work for Landmark Baptist Church in Haines City, Florida.
And then in a later broadcast, Kent indicated that he was hiring Sandra as his scheduling secretary, indicating that she would work remotely from her home in Central Florida.
Sandra, you're secretary for scheduling stuff. I'll call you when I get out of here if you're still awake.
And on the 15th of September, Sandra and Kent get married. They sign all the documents. So they don't have a wedding on this day. The actual wedding would be on Christmas Day of 2021 at Dinosaur Adventure Land. And then on September 23rd, 2021, Kent makes his infamous video called The Future, where he brings Sandra on camera for the first time and kisses her while chastising Cindy.
We got married last week. Sandra, you want to come up and become world famous? Cindy, should have been yours. You blew it.
And October 1st, 2021, Kent says he's going to drive to pick up his new 10-year-old stepdaughter with Sandra. Kind of sounds like you're going to pick up a new car.
I'm going to be a dad again to a 10-year-old. I'm going to keep going to Orlando and pick up my new 10-year-old daughter. Does she know we're coming, Mom? Does she know we're coming for her? She won't be surprised if we drive up and say, toss all your stuff in the bin. Okay, good.
But okay. On the 3rd of October, Sandra had been keeping her new marriage to Kent quiet to her extended friends and family. But on this date, she made a public Facebook post acknowledging it. And then this is when several people would add comments saying that she is in a common law marriage to Kent, much like Mary Toko was, which isn't considered legitimate in the eyes of the law. But of course, Sandra disputed this. And the law had actually just changed.
Beginning at the end of August, you'll no longer fill out an application for a marriage license like this. Instead, you and your fiancé will sign an affidavit and file it in probate court. But under the new law that passed the legislature last week, probate judges no longer will have to sign a marriage document, perform a ceremony, or otherwise bless the union.
So according to this, it seems that under this new law that the marriage might be official, but I don't know. And then on the 11th of October, Steve Lynn, who was the former right-hand man of Kent Hovind, I don't think he's currently at DAL anymore.
Oh, yeah. Steve's gone. He was another one that
as a whole, we saw was, harming the cause of Christ. And it would be better for the ministry and for the cause of Christ if he was no longer a part of the ministry. I mean, but we're talking near $100,000 of stuff where he has made amends.
He is served with court papers for Cindy Lincoln for damages to her rental property when he was still living at DAL.
And with that, we're done our rewind portion, and we're caught up in the timeline to last year's video, Dinosaur Scandal Land 2021. How did Kent react to that?
Well, I know that he wasn't very happy about it. He uploaded a video that he was later taken down that was called AJ and Paulogia Get Desperate, where he tried to downplay most of the things that we said. And I believe he threatened to body slam me also.
I'm capable of body slamming probably you, AJ, if I'm not going to.
So the reaction wasn't great.
What was clear was Kent's conceit about personal attacks.
Ad hominem attack takes the form of overtly attacking somebody or more subtly casting doubt on their character or personal attributes in a way to discredit their argument. But thank you for using the ad hominem attack as a clear demonstration. You're desperate, aren't you?
This may come up again.
On October 18th is when Kent filed his appeal for the guilty verdict for domestic assault. At first, he requested a new trial, but
the motion for the new trial was denied today with no reason.
So instead, Kent has filed for an appeal of the guilty verdict. And we're still waiting to see when this appeal will get seen in court. So that still hasn't happened because there have been 5 murder cases in Lenox, Alabama. So that's been tying up the court. Okay, and then this is when things get interesting. So on November 9th, Kent Hovind gets a 1-week suspension from YouTube.
We didn't have a choice but to live stream to my account tonight because unfortunately, Dr. Hovind's account has been suspended for a week. And so it's quite a shame. It seems like YouTube just can't handle the criticism.
After making a video with vitamin expert Bill Sardi that's spreading misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccinations.
The stuff they're putting in with this vaccine, visible under UV light, they'll be able to watch UV cameras putting up all over big cities. They can watch people coming out of stores. Oh, this one hasn't been vaccinated. Police arrest that man.
Bill Sardi is somebody who he was Kent's sort of vitamin guy.
Now, Bill Sardi's one of our board members and smartest guy I know on nutrition, and say, Bill, Kent told me to call. I got this problem with my health. He'll say, oh, are you taking this? No. Well, why not? And say, Bill, can I buy them from you?
And we'll see what happens with Bill Sardi later because it's not good. So on December 19th, 2021, Cindy Lincoln and her best friend were eating at a restaurant in Lenox. Now, this is Cindy's account of the story. When they saw Kent and Sandra enter, Cindy loudly proclaimed, "There goes Pinocchio."
All of those people cheering and applauding. I hated it.
Before her friend instructed her that they needed to leave immediately because of her protective order. So this is after Cindy had filed a PFA, or protection from abuse order, also known as a restraining order. Now, while I will say that this is against Cindy's better judgment, I do think it is hilarious. And I can understand how upset and angry the situation could make somebody, because this was Cindy's first time seeing Kent and Sandra together. And obviously, she had still had a lot of emotions about the situation and she got upset. And Kent left this whole comment on my channel.
AJ, your favorite person to interview to try to discredit me, CL, you know who that is, crazy lady, is at it again.
Ad hominem, let's attack the man instead of the argument. This is a sign of desperation.
I took the crew at DL to eat at the Chinese restaurant in Bruton like we do every other Sunday, and CL came in after we were there and sat by the cash register and exit door to be sure we saw her. When I went up for 2 NDS, she called out loudly, "There goes Pinocchio," for all to hear. There were about 20 of us from DAL who saw what happened. We ignored her, but after we left I thought, I wonder if she did this to try to have me arrested for violating the silly protection order she got against me.
Okay, so that's Kent's side, and Jody is Cindy's best friend. She was with Cindy when it happened, and I'll give their side of the story, because that's all we can really do, right?
Funny part is, I was there eating with her. We went to church together. We were there first and seated by the register. I walked next door, and when I came back she told me there's Pinocchio.
I'm telling you, the 110% most honestly honest, truthiest ever. Believe me!
When I turned around there was Kent and Sandra. It was clearly painful for Cindy to see him. She still loves this man.
So the key difference is that Cindy and her best friend claimed that they were there first and that Kent came in. Now, Kent claims that they were eating there first, and then it wasn't until Kent Hovind went up for seconds that he saw Cindy. It's quite a difference in their claims there. Okay, and now we're getting over into the new year of 2022. On February 1st, Steve Lynn is found guilty of $10,000 in damages, theft, and vandalism of Cindy Lincoln's rental property. So I understand Cindy still is waiting to get her payout on this, but he's been found guilty of this. On February 14th, 2022, Ken Hovind's vitamin expert, Bill Sardi, dies in the hospital.
He suddenly got radically sick and took to the hospital, put on a ventilator, and died about 6 days ago.
So I'm guessing this is from COVID-19.
I strongly suspect foul play. They wanted him out of the picture because he exposed the truth about that. He was one of the guys they wanted out of the picture because he interfered with Big Pharma. You think maybe there's an incentive so people don't get healthy?
So this one is interesting. On March 6th, 2022, Sandra makes a Facebook post offering to help Christian married couples keep the passion alive in their sex lives. Apparently, she's now an expert on the topic.
Today I am married to a man who finds much joy in being intimate, as the Bible teaches.
Okay. Well, none of us needed that image in our heads.
So the next months were relatively uneventful.
Well, maybe a Dinosaur Adventure Land. But in terms of Kent Hovind on YouTube, on March 16th, I released a video called If I Debated Kent Hovind, Best Evidence for Evolution. In it, I laid out one stipulation. After Kent clears his name...
Oh, he's talking about the Cindy thing? Oh, brother, you coward.
We have 3 rules from him: equal time, 1 topic at a time, no cursing, and 3 rules from me. Agree in advance on definitions to be used in the debate. Both stipulate, for the sake of the debate, that life has a designer, and schools, taxes, and textbooks are irrelevant to the discussion. Understanding that Kent would be unlikely to acquiesce on these, and knowing that Kent's proposed format...
You start off, give the best evidence you know of for evolution. I'll counter that. Then you give best evidence number 2. I'll counter that.
Doesn't actually require any interaction between us. I laid out 3 particularly conclusive lines of evidence for common descent: endogenous retrovirus insertions, the advanced prediction of the Tiktaalik find, and the fusion of human chromosome 2. This must have bothered Kent, because he quickly put up 3 lengthy responses instead of his usual 1 response. As all 3 completely missed and avoided the point of the science presented, I gave my brief notes over on the Paulogia Live channel rather than here on the main channel, but that did lead to perhaps the most unexpected thing I've done there this year.
But thank you for using the ad hominem attack as a clear demonstration. You're desperate, aren't you?
Sure. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Paulogia, and I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden...
Anybody seem like he made his voice deeper and added a bunch of muscles on himself? Let's try that again here.
Sure. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Paulogia.
Sure. My name is Paul. I have a channel named Paulogia.
And I'm a former Christian. Kent Hovind was once a golden star.
Kent Hovind was once a golden star. See, I have a different reading voice, and I have a different conversationalist voice, but I don't deepen it.
I'm just going to play a little bit of it.
I once was lost in sin, then Jesus took me in. And then a little light from heaven filled my soul. Talk with Jesus makes it right.
Hey, man, I love that. He's one of the low-downest guys I've heard in a while.
Then, on April 10th, a 2-hour Kent Hovind documentary dropped from filmmaker McKinnon Mitchell.
Yeah, my name is McKinnon Mitchell. By day, I'm a marketing professional. And then the dream and ambition at night is to start making films, and documentaries was a pretty natural shoe-in to get that started. At the time, documentary is the only type of film I could have made. How I got introduced with Kent was through the debates that I watched with him. And Raw, of course, was one of the major ones. He kept calling him inmate, I can't ever remember the number.
Inmate number 0645-2017.
So I just started researching and I saw there was like 45 felony counts. You're shocked when you see 45 felony counts, no matter what the felony is. You start going from there and everything just get more and more of a rabbit hole, essentially. And once I had all that information, I figured I might as well do something with it. And I want to make films. Seemed like the perfect connection.
You called it the weakness of Kent Hovind.
The thing that makes anybody interesting, whether they're a good person or a bad, is their weaknesses, their wants, their foibles. And with someone like Kent, his weaknesses are the things that kind of define him. Other people can have weaknesses that it doesn't define them. But with Kent, it's his downfalls, his trials and issues are all summed up to his list of weaknesses that I go through in the documentary. And that's the focus. It's not the focus on the Kent, the idiot science moron who doesn't understand creation is directed by McKinnon Mitchell. It's the weakness, the issues with this person. So one of the biggest things is his very narcissistic, but also very misogynistic and controlling nature. With Kent, it's not just that he's arrogant. Arrogance can even be, in some cases, somewhat endearing if it's, just in certain circumstances. But with him, it's you are less than. What you'll most likely come away with by observing this man, the things that he's done to people, the things that he's said to people, how he treats people, is that whether you are a creationist, whether you're an atheist, whether if you know nothing about him, the end result should be that this is someone to steer clear of. He's not a positive thing to be around. And I go so far in the documentary to say that he's a dangerous person.
Unfortunately for Cindy, she would soon learn of one of Kent's more dangerous weaknesses.
When I say dangerous, I just mean that personally, as you as an individual, he will do things that are not going to be a positive thing in your life. I originally was going to make this documentary somewhat of a comedy because Kent Hovind's this ridiculous character. How do you make a documentary trying to sound serious about a place called Dinosaur Adventure Land? The tone doesn't seem to fit, with a serious documentary. But after I spoke with Cindy Lincoln, after I spoke with Mary Tocco, and after I spoke with Joe Hovind, it's not a joke to them.
Has there been any reaction from Kent's camp to the documentary?
No. Since the release of the documentary, I haven't watched to see if there is any. A couple of people have sent me some short clips from one of his videos. He made one comment where someone in like a super chat or something was asking about, why he hasn't responded. He's like, oh, I don't watch it.
What's your response to the guy who made a documentary about you exposing Kent Hovind? I don't know. I don't care. People, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't watch it. Let him say what he wants. Ignore him. I don't care what he says.
Which is hilarious because he asked me for a link before the documentary came out saying, yeah, I'll go to watch, but he won't touch it. He won't because I still have all of the recordings, all of the text messages of us going back and forth, him making every single excuse that he ever could to get out of doing the interview. And so he can't then say, I never watched it, I don't watch that thing, and then say that he did watch it. And then he can't say that I never asked him because he knows I can verifiably prove that I did multiple times for a period of 2 years. So he'll probably never react to it, and I don't need him to. Everyone keeps asking, like, oh, could you do one on Matt Powell? Matt Powell's not interesting. Kent Hovind is interesting in a train wreck sort of way, but I've watched the train wreck now, and now I'm just staring at a train wreck. There's nothing more to see here, and I'm good.
Well, I thought it was an excellent documentary. My takeaway was, I don't know how he got all this information on Kent, all these images of Kent that I had never even seen before. So I thought that was very impressive. The level of research going into that video and just the interviews were really great. And I think it's a great piece of media and a must watch for anybody who's a fan of these type of investigative videos into Kent and his past. So good job, McKinnon.
And while it may have been old news, or at least old whispers, to those living day to day on Kent's compound, in summer 2022, some of the darkest, most disturbing secrets of Dinosaur Adventure Land began to surface for the rest of us. MrzParker?
I was definitely not minding my own business on the internet, and I was looking at some old Kent Hovind videos and found an interesting story of people exposing Kent Hovind for this, that, and the third. And so I started digging in. I did my very first Kent Hovind deep dive, which was really, really fun. And then it drove me down this interesting road, just finding names and connecting dots, going from Hyles-Anderson College to where DAL stands today. And the road from there to now got exceptionally dark and exceptionally bumpy. I guess where we would start is with Chris Jones. Chris Jones is on the board of directors with Kent Hovind. He is, as Kent Hovind has said himself, very close friends. Chris Jones is a tier 3 child sex offender in 2 states.
Hovind's an evil person because he let Chris Jones come on his property. Chris Jones has been a friend of mine for many, many years. I've known he was railroaded because he knew things about what happened at the jail. And so they had to shut him up somehow. So they made up these wild charges from an incident from 5 years earlier, I believe it was. In California, they're real strict. He was playing strip poker with the boys to teach one of them a lesson. They asked him to be the dealer, and he rejected it for a long time. Finally, he said, okay. And so he got him down to his underwear and said, Chris said, that's it, let's go. Much later, they accused him, because Chris was very active in publishing stuff, exposing what's going on, New World Order kind of thing. Anyway, he now has to register as a sex offender.
More than 7 children, more than 21 instances of aggressive child sex offenses.
Here are the things that Chris Jones did in order to get convicted as a pedophile and get put on the sex offender registry list. Chris Jones, according to People vs. Jones, put a naked boy over his lap and smacked his butt. He forced 2 boys to strip down to their underwear while watching a boxing match. He sexually groped a boy in his limousine after getting the boy to take off his pants and underwear. He dared a boy to strip down to his underwear in a game of Truth or Dare. He showed small children porn videos and porn pics. He took pics of kids when they were naked. He got a boy under the age of 14 to sleep in a bed with him in exchange for video game time on the computer. And he got a hard-on while watching the boys play strip naked during a game of strip poker, a game which Chris himself initiated, according to People vs. Jones.
Chris Jones and Kent Hovind had arranged for Chris to come visit Dinosaur Adventure Land on several occasions.
He comes through here once in a while, and we're friends. We're still friends, and he's welcome here anytime. Okay, he's not a sex offender.
This led to several people on campus becoming alarmed, scared, and worried because there were children on campus.
I was just basically responding to the families that were sounding an alarm. They were coming to Kent saying, look, we're tired of this. We don't want to have to take our children off campus every time this guy comes. This is our home. We would like him not to come on campus.
Kent Hovind proceeded to do a house meeting, which we also have the leaked audio of, where he says that if you don't like it, you can leave.
Okay, now, I want anybody to say whatever you want to say about Chris. Okay, you have any questions? I want this clear. Because next time I invite him here, somebody else is going to get mad and leave. Well, just bye. Okay, go ahead.
That's the attitude.
That's the attitude I have, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm proud of it. This is the place God called me to start.
That's the attitude that is wrong.
Okay, I think it's right.
It's just showing that you're not willing to bend, and you're more interested in being king.
I see it the opposite way. You're not willing to bend. He's been my friend for 20 years. He's carried this leprosy label around for long enough. It's done.
Drawing a very distinct line that Hovind will stand with his friends before anybody else. It becomes a bigger problem when you start to realize there's a man who is also on campus and also a very close friend of Kent Hovind.
Brady Byram was just appointed to the board of Creation Science Evangelism in February of this year. He is not convicted. His family did not prosecute him, but the letter from his son is on Robert Baty's website. I learned in that meeting that my dad had been molesting my cousin. I began to see my father as the monster he was, and began to think of all the kids he had contact with through the years. It definitely wasn't a one-off thing, and that he picked it back up.
And I do have to preface that with allegations because they were over 30 years old. The children are now grown. No charges were ever filed. But the count does come from the children themselves.
Brady's never been found guilty of being a pedophile in any court. And even if the accusation is true, it was 30 years ago, and it's none of these accusers' business. Let the law handle it, okay?
At this point, going more to establishing a pattern here.
Wife number 3, Cindy Lincoln, is on audio with me talking about how Kent Hovind would brag that at the Hiles-Anderson College.
Hiles-Anderson College is essentially a cesspool that has produced over 8 or 9, I forget, between 9 and 12 pedophiles that have been convicted.
Which is known for the prayer bus. It's a bus that was driven in the 60s and the 70s by the Hyles Anderson University, which is the independent Baptist church, a stronghold. They use this bus to go into the inner city to pick up children and bring them back to the church to preach to them. It is now known that bus was used to facilitate child sex crimes and bring children into the church to molest them. Kent Hovind drove that bus for 15 years.
I ran a bus for 15 years, drove a church bus to all black neighborhoods that were the cities I was working in, brought thousands of them to the church and into Christ, and loved working with them. They get the rhythm. Man, these guys get going. Anyway.
Kent Hovind has several current attachments to ministers and pastors who also went to Anderson College, who also have convictions of child sex crimes.
Okay, you'll hear Kent on a seminar series talk about that. And he told me personally, and I think he's probably said it online, that Jack Hyles was falsely accused and innocent.
Jack Hyles, pastor of First Baptist Church, Hammond, Indiana, used to listen to his sermons all the time. Fabulous preacher, started at Hyles Anderson College. Anyway, I would listen to Jack Hyles. Anybody ever heard of Jack Hyles? You've got to get some of his sermons that blow your mind. He started Hyles Anderson College up in Crown Point near Indiana, near Chicago.
Jack Hyles' daughter did a TED Talk. She said, "My father lived a double life." Sundays, he was righteous family man, charismatic preacher. During the week, he had sexual and physical abuse of his family. Their home was full of hatred.
So when you add all of that together, it starts to become exceptionally terrifying. You have a man who has a amusement park, quintessentially, which is geared towards family and children. But on campus, you have several child sex offenders.
It's not an isolated incident. There are 5 that I know of, and I'm going to be doing a video on each one.
And then we come into 2019 when Chris Jones, a convicted child sex offender, brings a young man by the name of Zaire to DAL campus.
And you want to say hi to Mom, right, Zaire? Come on, get up here and say hi to Mom. Okay.
So.
Wait, you're not done yet. You're not done yet. Come on, you got to be a movie star right here. Look at the camera and say hi, Mom.
Hey.
Okay. Chris brought Zaire here with prearranged permission from Paul Hansen, myself, and his mother. He came to be baptized and to dedicate his life to the Lord. That's why he came here. I baptized Zaire in our lake, okay?
They come there, they stay for 3 days. Kent Hovind and Chris portrayed the picture as if, they were doing charity.
So Chris, and he brought a young boy, a 13-year-old young black boy from his area up there where he's from, who is being raised without a father. And Chris took him in under his wing to kind of be dad to him.
What we know now is that Chris had preyed upon this family, given them gifts, and was grooming the children. The parents are now aware of that situation. Charges have been filed.
I will be going through with whatever the authorities need. It's a lot.
Hey, brother, Kent Hovind here. I just got a call from Steve Bolin claiming that Zaire is pressing charges against Chris. This whole drama is never going to quit, brother. Just completely ignore them. They don't get it. Bunch of morons. Anyway, call if you need me. Thanks, brother. Bye.
When the incident happened, no one was aware of these things. We have several accounts of Zaire sleeping in the same bed with Chris Jones.
So Paul Hansen and Chris and this boy Zaire went over to stay over there. Well, there's only one mattress on the floor. The boy was sleeping on a couch.
Listen to me. I guarantee you that I was not going to allow any boy to sleep in Chris's bedroom. And I didn't think much of it. I figured Chris would sleep in the back and Zaire would sleep on the couch.
So Paul is sleeping in his little camper outside. The doors are open. Nothing's hidden or closed. Nothing hidden or secret. So when Zaire got scared and came in and said, "Chris, can I stay with you?" Chris said, "Let me call your mom." Mom, he knows the family well. "Mom, is it okay if Zaire sleeps with me?" "Oh, yes, please do. He gets scared easy."
Either I heard a video or Chris told me that can't talk to Zaire's mom.
She said, "Well, that's fine. He can stay in the same. It's a queen-size bed on the floor, both fully dressed, stayed on the bed."
That one night I went in, the door was open. I said, "Chris, what is Zaire doing in the bedroom? He's got his own place to sleep out here."
Paul came in the next morning and said, "Chris, it doesn't really look good."
"Chris, you've got this thing over you. You got this cloud over you. What is he doing in your room at all?" This is really stupid. I was mad. I was mad, and I was going to make sure this didn't happen again because this is stupid.
Paul comes in the next morning. There they are, still on opposite sides of the mattress, sleeping in their clothes, door wide open. End of story.
Kent Hovind facilitated this. He allowed them to stay at DAL.
And there is a technicality on that. So for him to say that Chris didn't sleep with Zaire on ministry property is technically true. However, he had control over the property next door where Chris did sleep. And in fact, I recently spoke to the secretary at the time who was told to go next door and make up the bed. And she came to Kent and said, there's only one bed in there. And Kent, of course, said, that's fine, go make it up.
So that's how he's been able to separate himself that way.
Zaire and Chris were found in bed together in their underwear, wrestling. Chris had his hands on Zaire, and Zaire was scared. Mark, can you confirm that was
not once.
What Paul told you?
That is my recollection, yes.
That wrestling occurred in the living room when I looked through the window and they were just wrestling on the floor. I said, I don't care if the kid wants to wrestle or not. You just don't do that. That's stupid.
Zaire spent 2 nights with Chris in this home. It took about a year and a half to find Zaire because Chris and Kent Hovind made it exceptionally difficult for us to find these people.
Chris, you know where the guy lives? Just walk up and talk to him and hold a newspaper up while you're talking to him and get it on the film at the same time so we know the date, and we're good. And when Chris started getting a little resistant about him, I said, Chris, come on. This is not a big thing to do.
No one knew what his real name was. We didn't know his parents. We didn't even know if Georgia was where he came from. We had no idea. But because of the wonderful work of Mark Stoney, a ex-member and member of the board with Kent Hovind and DAL, he has dedicated the last 2 years to not only finding Zaire, but trying to get answers.
I have now come to terms with the fact that Zaire is not alive.
I'm still holding out hope. Because I want to.
Finally being able to know that Zaire is safe. He's with his mother. He's with his stepdad. He's okay was a relief. Finally hearing his voice was probably one of the most relieving moments I've ever had.
Hello? Can you hear me?
He said that he loves you. That's my brother, the one that you're asking about.
Is this Zaire?
Yeah, this is Zaire.
Oh my goodness. My heart is so... Oh wow. Listen, I've been trying to find out if you're okay for like 3 years now, from when you went with Chris to Dino Land.
Oh, yeah. You know, he's fine, he's home.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy. Like, you have no idea.
I never want to believe the worst case scenario, but I can't help but take myself there.
I called Zaire's mother a few days after they got back. Oh, he had a wonderful time. Thank you so much. We're going to come down there someday. Paul testified nothing happened. Chris testified nothing happened. Zaire said nothing happened.
And, you know, he's so excited about this whole trip that he's telling me everything.
Yeah.
So when he went to say, well, Chris touched me with a paper towel on, and I was like, what you mean? With a paper towel? Well, he touched me with the paper towel. I said, touched you well. He said, down there. I immediately walked outside. I said, Zaire, you stay right here. Mm-hmm. I immediately called Chris.
Yeah.
And I told him, you are no longer allowed to be around my family, my home, or anything. If you come over here, I will be calling the police. I told you that when Chris came around, he seemed like a very nice person, teaching or, you know, helping me with my smaller children or children in general, with everything. But my son just said 2 things. He pulled my pants and my underwear down and touched me with this paper towel. Yeah. So you still have that right. I'm your mama and I ain't even done that.
Right.
You know, then he said, oh yeah, it wasn't at Dino Land, but it was somewhere else. When I woke up, I felt weird. but I don't know if he did anything. I'm not gonna lie, Zaire has been a little messed up, but I'm glad he's acting out a little bit, but not to the point where
Yeah. Well,
I can't control him.
all you can do is
I'm
love him. You know, love that boy as hard as you can, because that's what he needs.
and then that much more, and then more,
Yeah.
especially knowing Chris and everything. Like,
So to find a happy ending, as dark as it was, meant a lot. Zaire is a very good young man. He's an amazing young man, talented. He makes music.
My mama keep telling me, son, you gotta finish what you started. If you wanna be better than everybody, then you gotta work harder.
He's planning on going to college. We have been supporting him. Mark Stoney's been supporting him. And we've made a pledge with the Petty family to be there for him as he continues to move on with his life. So we've decided to invest in that young person. He's very brave. He's very brave. And so between him and Robert Baty.
Well, now, who contacted Baty about you being here?
Oh, I have no idea. Does he know? I have no idea.
I guess Baty's got it all up on his stuff. I mean, I don't care what Baty thinks.
And before I forget, Robert Baty says hi, Kent.
Tell him to get a real job, okay?
His answer to everyone is, these are my friends. And if you don't like them, you don't have to be here. You can leave when my friends come.
If I decide I want Chris Jones to come, Chris, you're welcome to come. He's never spent the night here. But he could, as far as I'm concerned. Even that, there's no law against him spending the night here.
Well, let's go ahead and turn to Alabama law. And this is regarding adult sex offenders and prohibited residence locations, etc. No adult sex offender shall reside or conduct an overnight visit with a minor.
There's no law. He's off the record. I mean, he's off the probation. It's fine. It's fine. But more than that, it's not your call. It's my call.
And so that sets up a really scary place.
The real issue are the child abusers who are teaching kids evolution. That's the real child abusers, teaching kids before they can read. Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. That's the child abusers. You're worried about somebody having pedophilia in his history 30 years ago. You're more concerned about a kid you haven't seen because his mama doesn't want to show him on camera. Those who teach evolution to children, they're the real pedophiles. They teach millions of years ago. That's the child abuse right there. Focus on that.
Now we can bring it a little further because it gets a little more disturbing. Now we're on to wife number 4. The church that she comes from is a bit problematic in and of itself. It's called Landmark Baptist College.
He worked at the church her family attended, Landmark Baptist Church in Batavia.
He worked in the nursery. He worked in the children's with the children, the teens, the teen group.
She's got 2 children of her own, a minor daughter. People are concerned for her because of the people that Kent Hovind has in his circle on a regular basis. We have stories from Mark Stoney, his daughter, going into the bedroom, coming out after massages.
He would have a store back on a regular basis, and anybody who would massage him, he would take it.
It never crossed my mind that he would have a child, a minor child, let alone my own child, without my consent, without my knowledge, without my permission, join in on these therapeutic massages.
I don't know how old she was.
She was 5 and 6 at the time.
But I only saw that happen once that I can recall.
I'm like, wait a minute, Mackenzie, who told you you were the best massager in the world? Oh, Kent Hovind, when he would let me massage him while I was at school. I went through 6 months of therapy with my daughter after all this really hit the fan, and just, man, it's coming back. I'm with you. I got to step aside.
Did I tell you about the drugs? The heroin that got flushed down the toilet. That was the Steve arrest from last year.
They found heroin, which Kent's current secretary, Kelly Sikora, flushed down the toilet at Kent's instruction.
Steve's the one who had sex with the secretary at DAL.
If she's going to say something bad about me, I'm going to expose what she did where we had to make her leave. Yulia, are you sure you want the whole world to know what you did? I know. And the board members know.
I talked to her on a Brett Keane stream.
I did fall into sin and I did cheat on my husband. Yes, I did. I feel awful about that. I did not know that I was being filmed. I had no idea.
By Steve Lynn.
By
right?
Steve
You
Lynn.
did
Right.
not know.
So what happened was, I went over to his house. He offered me alcohol. So I'm like, sure, I'll drink. And I did. And I was belligerently drunk. Like I was so drunk. And yeah, he brought me into his bedroom and I had sex with him. And it was so stupid, but I didn't know that he was filming me. I had no idea.
After the incident, Kent Hovind helped to show everybody the videos because he needed to shame her.
Everyone started saying to me, like, oh my gosh, you were with Steve. And I'm like, how did everyone know that? And everyone started telling me that there's a sex video of you doing it with him. Like, people watched it too. I'm like, why is everybody watching it?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like everyone, it was like, okay.
He had to show that she cheated on her husband. And because she cheated on her husband, she could not be trusted with the other things that she knew. What did she know? She knows where the money is. So that's how he discredited her. He discredited wife number one by saying she wasn't a godly woman and she didn't stand by her husband. Then we discredited wife number two by saying that she was mentally unstable and just wanted him for his money.
Focus, Mary-san. You're fighting the wrong enemy. You were a wonderful wife. But when you came here for 9 months and you realized you can't run the place and you can't tell the board how to do things and you can't tell me how to do things, you left. Okay.
He has lied about me. He said that I was trying to take over his ministry. He told me that I was after money. What I wanted to see the place run was like a ship.
What if I didn't like the way you put the dishes away? Should I gripe about it? Your job is to be a wife and guard the home.
Discredit wife number three, mentally unstable.
She, however, has often been violent, and many at the camp will testify that she shows signs of being bipolar.
And that's when the whole, let's get rid of Cindy. She's bipolar. She's mentally unstable. She just goes off for no reason.
You were much happier and prettier when you were focused on our ministry work.
Then we discredit this witness by saying she cheated on her husband. Then we discredit every woman who's ever questioned Kent Hovind gets discredited the exact same way.
Ravi did the same thing as Kent. Destroy the witness. Destroy the witness.
But thank you for using the ad hominem attack as a clear demonstration. You're desperate, aren't you?
What's very heinous about this one is it opens up this idea that Kent Hovind is willing to use revenge porn. Why is DAL equipment recording porn? And until we have more people who are willing to come out and say, this is what happened to me at DAL, we are stuck at a crossroads, as many churches are so many times. Until the victims start to talk, this will continue. That's the saddest part of this story. That's the reason why I had to stop covering Kent Hovind, because it takes me right back to being a child in a cult.
This is a cult.
He's kind of like the Mad Hatter right now. And so we're putting ourselves in a very bad situation because, again, he has property where nobody is.
If they show up here tonight and bust us all with these guns, they're going to shut down the ministry. Everything we've worked on is gone.
No one will take him off of his land. He's been recruiting homeless people. He turned DAL into a homeless shelter. He is encouraging families to come down. He's harboring criminals there, and no one can stop him because he is literally out in the boonies.
Yes. And I remember that you and I would both go to Kent if the secretary would say, hey, the background check has this strange thing on it, Dr. Hovind. Are you sure you want this guy here? Right. And you and I were both like, And Ken would always go, no problem.
I know this is a really scary story to talk about, especially on a channel like yours. So it's like, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Kent continued to do his usual debates. Matt Powell became more involved at DAL. Kent briefly started spreading COVID conspiracies in his videos, but that has completely stopped after YouTube slapped him on the wrist. And this is where we get into Matt Powell stuff. Matt Powell is a preacher for the NIFB, so I believe he was preaching up in Michigan, but he's moved down to Dinosaur Adventure Land with Kent Hovind, and so he's Kent Hovind's assistant there now. And on June 17th, 2021, Matt Powell uploaded an hour-long anti-LGBT hate sermon on Odyssey.com. He didn't upload it to YouTube because he knows that it violates the site's rules on hate speech. And the video is full of bigoted statements, with the worst coming at the end, where Matt says that
I believe that all of these drag queens, right,
should be lined up, every single one of them, that has flaunted their body in a sexual manner in front of children. I believe that they should all be lined up, and by the power of the United States Constitution and the authority of God's word should be dealt with by a... The only reason they adopt children is probably to them. Lord, I pray you'd strike those pedophiles, every single one of these drag queens, Lord.
Of course, he really just means all LGBT people. On June 29th, 2022, I had a debate rematch with Kent Hovind, and there was some bad blood between us leading up to the debate.
I'm going to be debating Atheist Jr. here in another couple of weeks. And I did once, I think, pretty embarrassed him pretty bad. So he's pretty desperate to try to get his manhood back, I think.
And it was definitely a fiery rematch. And Kent wasted no time poisoning the well and letting his audience know that I was bisexual and part of the LGBT community.
Says he's 5'1", and April 21, he came out as online as bisexual. He's a makeup artist. So it's good to know.
He Googled my name and had found a fan wiki page about me that somebody else had written, and basically just copy and pasted that info into his slides, even though some of it was wrong. And Kent was pretty angry and disgruntled throughout, interrupted me a lot, over talking me and getting frustrated at my responses until he was pretty red in the face.
But it didn't give birth to one in one generation. That's what I'm saying.
That violates your law of monophyly.
No,
they
it
will
doesn't.
always be in their same clade. Yes, it does, AJ. You can't have it both ways. You don't even see that you're trying to talk out of both sides of your head.
But it was a fun debate. I definitely enjoyed it, although it was a little bit emotionally draining afterwards.
Now, I've said that I won't appear on a video with Kent, at least until such time as the courts have cleared his name of domestic assault. What made you choose to do a debate with him?
Well, I will say that the first time I debated Kent, it was before I had a webcam. It was before I had a good microphone, and it was my first debate I had ever done. So I had a lot more debate experience since then. And I guess just watching Kent, I fell into the trap of wanting to take up the challenge because he's constantly challenging people in his videos.
He doesn't call for a live debate, though. What's that noise the chicken makes, AJ? Do it for us. Come on, go ahead.
And the way I saw it was I wasn't very happy with some of the debate performances I saw people giving against Kent. And I sort of thought, well, if people are going to debate him, then at least they should do it right, you know? So if you want something done right, do it yourself was basically my mindset.
All right. Fair enough.
On August 24th, 2022, Kent Hovind did a Whack an Atheist video about me, showing my video about Matt Powell and how I thought he should be banned for the sermon he gave. And Kent seemed to experience stroke-like symptoms during the video. He was having visible difficulty reading the words on the slides correctly.
What? Yeah. I cannot hear you.
Are you having a TIA?
I cannot.
TIA.
I cannot. What?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And he had something called a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, which is a stroke that only lasts a few minutes.
Somebody said, did you have a TIA last night? I don't know. Maybe so. I feel great right now. The symptoms of a TIA, that's a stroke, a mini stroke. One side of the body, slurred or garbled speech, difficulty understanding others. I have difficulty understanding others all the time. So I think you folks who believe in evolution need some serious psychological help. I may need to go see a doctor about my whatever I had. I don't know. But you need to see a shrink.
So that was very odd to watch. And I wish him the best on his health, you know, because it was a little bit scary to see. And on September 19th, 2022, Kent Hovind and Cindy Lincoln met up in court because Cindy had accused Kent of violating the protection from abuse order.
I had to go to court over this thing with my ex-wife, Cindy, claiming that I violated the PFA, protection from abuse, that she got against me. I'm not supposed to be within 500 feet. Okay. So we took it to court, and then the judge threw it out. There's no case here. So
okay. Well, that's definitely not what happened.
No, Kent, nothing was thrown out. So what happened was that the judge found that there was some discrepancies in the language of the PFA. There were some problems with how it had been written. And so basically what happened is that he threw out the first one, but then immediately reinstated this new one that very clearly says that Kent cannot come within 500 feet of Cindy Lincoln, or else he's in violation of that protective order. So that language was not exactly clear on the previous version. it also says basically that Kent is not supposed to harass, annoy, or do anything that would make Cindy feel like she's unsafe. I don't know if that includes slandering her in YouTube videos, but Kent, if he's going to be making videos about Cindy, I think he needs to be careful with what he says, because if he's saying things in these videos that could be construed as threats, well, Cindy still lives in Lenox, Alabama, so it's very possible that her seeing that could make her feel unsafe.
In the 3 years we were married, I never hit her, harmed her, raised my voice at her, or threatened her in any way. I mean, I'm capable of that. I'm saving it for a special occasion, okay?
You're capable of violence, but saving it for a special occasion? Sounds like a threat to me.
So what Cindy had accused Kent of doing was that she was at a friend's house who had a garage sale after church. The person did this fairly regularly. And usually she would see Kent drive by and just not acknowledge her. But on this day, she said that Kent Hovind pulled up in the driveway and waved to her and smiled at her and was there for several minutes. So that would be a clear violation of the protective order. Now, Kent, he claims that Cindy intentionally waited at the garage sale to entrap him, even though she's not a police officer.
I Googled the law about entrapment. It's only for police officers, but the same concept applies, and we'll bring all this up if it has to go to court. Entrapment occurs when an officer or person under his control incites, induces, lures, or instigates a person into committing a criminal offense, which that person would not have otherwise committed and had no intention of committing. Entrapment is a defense to criminal charges by officers, but the concept holds true in this case.
No, the concept does not hold, at least not legally. And you've expressed why. A private citizen can't entrap another private citizen in a legal sense. Since this is a legal question and not an ethical or logistical question, this entrapment plea isn't going to go anywhere.
She showed up at a Chinese restaurant. She parked right near the van. She knew we were in there and she sat right by the register. That does not show fear. She also called him names in front of everybody.
Yeah, while I walked by to the buffet, I saw her sitting there. Oh, brother, I got a whole crew there eating. And she said, oh, there goes Pinocchio.
Okay, that last part wasn't true, but everything I said up until then was.
To entrap him. That's his claim. So on that same channel, Kent Hovind uploaded this strange, quote unquote, reenactment of the body slam incident where he had a large man wearing a blonde wig who was supposed to represent Cindy. And he played the audio of the incident. And it's funny, but at the same time, he plays this terrible audio during it.
I push her off to the side. She hits the shelf and falls down. Lay down on the floor there.
And I was just like, I don't know why he did this. Even I think some Kent Hovind supporters in the comments were saying that, Kent, this is taking a serious situation and not taking it seriously. So I don't think it was a good idea. It was ridiculous. I don't know what else you could really say about that. It was just ridiculous. I have communicated a little bit with Sandra on Facebook Messenger, and she seems nice, but it seemed to me that as soon as this court date happened, all of a sudden she became sort of a puppet for Kent.
I am so upset about all of this. I can't even concentrate, just to be honest. What I saw in the court today was disgust in every way imaginable. I saw two people lying under oath. I saw the judge keep telling Cindy what she could have done, but yet tell her he's not supposed to be a lawyer. I saw after the whole thing was done, from the beginning to end, it was a joke. Our lawyer came outside and told my husband that judge does not even like my husband because of the last case. And I'm just upset. I have so much I want to say.
So this court date was the last major event and one of the first major events we've seen in the court battle between Cindy Lincoln and Kent Hovind.
On October 6, 2022, the Circuit Court of Conecuh County set the trial date of State of Alabama v. Kent Hovind for December 12, 2022 at 9 a.m. So, Kent has a little more than a month to prepare to clear his name on domestic abuse against Cindy Lincoln. Perhaps he will be heading back to prison after all. Perhaps new evidence will clear him, or perhaps Kent will simply find yet another way to distract and delay. Time will tell.
I think it's been an interesting year. I hope to see Cindy get the justice that she's been granted.
Here's hoping that 2023 is far too boring to make another one of these, but I wouldn't hold my breath. You know, as I reflect back on another year of Kent's behavior, one idea has struck me and I can't quite shake it. Let's call it the Paulogia Hovind theory.
Hovind theory, couldn't prove it to anybody.
I don't think Kent actually cares about the creation-evolution debate anymore. Young Earth creationism is merely the public product he sells as an initial qualifier to recruit people to exploit to build his empire. He now knows that the kind of person who will uncritically swallow on mere authority the notion that the Earth is only 6,000 years old is exactly the kind of person who will fall in line with his authoritarian machinations, if only for a time. Creationism and Christianity isn't Kent's endgame, it's the bait.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. From what I've seen, based on Kent's performances and his outbursts in debates recently, it almost seems like he's lost interest in the creation evolution thing. So I think what you're saying is true, but I also think that he's really fascinated with this whole idea of the gender binary and people challenging that, you know? Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
There are so many red flags out there that people need to really stop and realize that this man is not this wonderful, godly man that we all thought he was.
We both came to the ministry because we thought it was a godly place. We thought it was promoting godly stuff. We wanted to serve in assistance to that, the creation goal. And we thought Kent was, travels the world speaking the Lord's word. You don't travel that kind of schedule unless you're devoted to the Lord. So we thought. And that's why we both came and we were both deceived.
The reason why we are doing this is not to spread rumors. That's not what's going on here at all. What is going on here is we are exposing people misusing ministry money, people in ministry that are not living according to, as if they're walking with Christ. And again, we as the church cannot cover this kind of stuff up. In the past, when women have come forward about being abused, about being mistreated, the church covers it up because, you can't threaten the gospel. You get the gospel. No, this stuff needs to be exposed, shown for what it is, because that's what is important. It's important to show this kind of stuff, not hide it, push it under the rug. What is going on here is we are trying to point out that Ken Hovind, who is in ministry, is not living in according to God's plan. He
hasn't been for years.
He is definitely is not. The money is not. There's some shady activities going on with that we're not entirely sure of. And people need to be aware of this ministry and should not be supporting it. That is what is going on here. And it's not, you two are not the only ones here. There are dozens of testimonies I've seen around YouTube of people who went there and worked, volunteered there, same kind of issues.
Thank you so much to McKinnon Mitchell, MrzParker, and Atheist Jr. for all their hard work and research that went into this video. With assists to Brett Keane, Mark Stoney, Cindy Lincoln, and Robert Baty for their daily Kent Hovind watchdog efforts. I've tagged all their channels in the description and follow them for more. But to end it all off, let's cleanse our palates with Whacked, the hit song by my sound editor Shavon, as featured on Paulogia Live. Until next time, later.
Last week on our Whack and Atheist, we started dismantling the silly teachings of Paul, who calls himself a former Christian, and fancies himself to be smarter than God and his word, and able to stand in judgment of both. He thinks he can judge God and his word rather than God judge him. He's in for a real surprise one day. Paul ends up in Canada. Paulogia, he calls himself, a self-proclaimed Canadian atheist. I don't believe that for a second. Apparently he does not own, or maybe does not know how to use a comb. I don't believe that for a second. His part of Canada must not have barbers either, but that's okay. He's good at photoshopping. He was able to put big muscles on himself. His character is muscular and square jaw. The real Paul is not that way at all. I was right. You are wrong. Man did not create anything. Nothing. Man don't create nothing. I was right. You are wrong. Man did not create nothing. Nothing. Dawkins. Whacked. Hitchens. Whacked. Harris. man. Just relax. I'll be there, okay? Here is the cartoon image he uses. Here is the real Paul. Note the added bicep deltoid, added pectoralis major, added bicep, jawline, tough jawline. Now in real life, he's small, kind of scrawny, but he puts his big muscles on himself with his cartoon picture. He doesn't want to be seen. I was right. You are wrong. Man did not create anything. Nothing. Man don't create nothing. I was right. You are wrong. Man did not create. Not create. Man did not create. Matt Dillahunty. Right. Lawrence Krauss. Right. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Right. I'll debate Paulogia any day. Won't I? And the deeper voice. You got it. How do they? It's simple to do, isn't it? Edit in a deeper voice. Because he said DNA is evidence for evolution. Man did not create broccoli. You guys believe all the bananas came from a dot of nothing exploding. Well, let's talk about that here. DNA right here. God created the world, okay? Whether you like it or not. And you're going to face him one day, whether you like that or not, okay? And even Paulogia did another one today. After whacking him several times, Paul about pretending he had big muscles and a deep voice, he seems to have switched to showing his real face and physique. Wise move, Paul. Wise move. Seth Andrews. Correct. Joe Hansen. Correct. Sam and Dan did not add artificial muscles. Correct. Atheist Jr., his 7 viewers. Correct. Pro Evolution Comments. Correct. Desperada 23. Correct. Commotion, the lawnmower. Correct. Paulogia. Bring it on. Call me 855 Big Dino, Paulogia. Open challenge. When you want to debate again, you start off, give the best evidence you know of for evolution. I'll counter that. Then you give best evidence number 2. I'll counter that. Fair enough? Come on. My channel, your channel, both channels. Neutral channel. Come on, Paulogia. You brave warrior. Half my brain tied behind my back. I'll debate Paulogia any day. Won't I, Paulogia? Come on. And this time to see the real you, not the cartoon character with the muscles, okay? I'm gonna whack this guy out of the park as soon as I get time. I've been busy.
Wow. What the hell have you guys been up to? Wow. What the hell? I have no idea what the fuck did we just watch? I have no idea. Somebody really did an amazing job with that, though. I mean, yeah, wow. I said that was. I think I gotta share that on the bangers list. I'm not sure what exactly watched, but it was fucking very creative and well done. And you gotta love fucking trying to debate people who already know everything. It's like trying to fill a glass that's already full. You're just not gonna get anywhere with that.